Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the October 3rd meeting of the School Board's Committee of the Whole. Today, the invocation will be led by School Board Member Nathan Rust, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by School Board Member Cliff Lewis. Mr. Rust?
Please stand and bow your head with me. Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day and all the blessings that you have bestowed upon our community and our families. We praise you. We thank you for who you are. And we pray that you will protect and bless the children of our community, that you will gird the servants that you have put into our community to educate these children, and that you will help us stay focused on the outcomes that we desire for our families. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I now call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
District 3, President Powell Lewis. District 9, Mr. Martin.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis. District 4, Ms. Stewart.
Present.
District 5, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
District 6, Mr. Russ.
Present.
District 7, Mr. Goday. District 8, Ms. Sule.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. President Powell Lewis asked me to let everybody know that she is en route back to Baton Rouge from a Louisiana School Board Association meeting in Covington, and we expect her here before too long, although I told her I was going to try to get the meeting finished before she arrived. All right. So first item, if everybody please remember to log in on the computer. First item is the fiscal transparency report. That is for information only. I don't believe there is anything. That report, as always, provides information about the contracts the district has entered into over the past recent time. All right, moving on to item C, announcement of public meeting. Notice is hereby given that at its meeting to be held on Thursday, November 21st, 2024 at 5 p.m. at its regular meeting place, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board Office, 1050 South Foster Drive, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Parish School Board of the Parish of East Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, plans to consider adopting a resolution ordering and calling an election to be held in Consolidated School District Number 1 of the Parish of East Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, to authorize the renewal of ad valorem taxes therein. All right. So, and there are supporting materials in board docs. All right, moving on. Item D1, items for consideration, stipend, consideration of a request for the approval of the distribution of the LDOE certificated and support staff stipends for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Strategic alignment, operational excellence. Superintendent, is there a presentation on this needed at all, or are we just going to go? All right, so we'll turn straight to board comment on this item. Any comment from members of the board on this item? Mr. Rust.
I move we accept the motion as read.
Thank you. Is there a second for that? Second by motion by Mr. Rust, second by Ms. Stewart. Any further discussion from the board on this item? All right. Is there any comment from the public on this item? None. Let me, 1 second. There are no comments online from the public, so any further comment from the board? All right. Madam Secretary, let's vote.
Please vote.
I'm just getting logged in right now.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on, item number 2, grants. Consideration of a request for the acceptance of the following grants and related matters. Alphabet A, 2024-2025 Art and Education Supplies and Materials Grant in the amount of $4,000 for art supplies for Park Elementary. Alphabet B, 2024-2025 Deborah Rochelle Teacher Grant in the amount of $13,396 to provide funding to 4 teachers for school site projects. Alphabet C, ADF Teacher Grant in the amount of $29,894 to provide funding to 7 schools for site projects. Alphabet D, 2024-2025 Louisiana Department of Education CCAP B-3 grant in the amount of $808,034 to sustain enrollment for current students enrolled in the Infants to 3-year-old program. Alphabet E, 2024-2025 high dosage tutoring grant and approval of the budget in the amount of $2,080,565 to provide high dosage tutoring for students grades kindergarten through 5th grade. Is there a motion? A move by Ms. Stewart. Is there a second by Ms. Sule? All right. Any discussion from members of the board on this item? Coach Lewis. All right. Thank you very much, Coach.
Okay. I'm sorry, Patrick. Give me a second. I'll wait till we get down to 4.
Okay.
So, professional service coming up.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Any other comments from members of the board? All right. Any comments from members of the public on item 2, grants? All right. Then we'll come back to members of the board. Any comments from members of the board? All right. Madam Secretary, let's vote that item.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item 3, grants, Public Service Commission. Consideration of a request for the acceptance of the following Public Service Commission grants and related matters. Alphabet A, Melrose Elementary in the amount of $192,500. Alphabet B, Scotlandville High in the amount of $452,827. Alphabet C, Liberty High in the amount of $328,000. Alphabet D, Glen Oaks High in the amount of $626,411. Alphabet E, Professional Development Center, PDC, in the amount of $116,919.73. Alphabet F, Baton Rouge Magnet High in the amount of $596,877.33 to fund energy efficiency project, strategic alignment, operational excellence. Is there a motion? Moved by Ms. Stewart, second by Mr. Rust. All right, is there any board discussion on this item? Coach, you in the queue for this one now?
Yes.
Okay.
The question I have is, what are the provisions inside of these grants for women and minority-owned businesses?
Mr. Morales is coming to respond.
Okay. And in that, he can tell me who's gonna do the work.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? So the Public Service Commission grants is something done by the Public Service Commission. It's not something that EBR does personally to apply for it. Someone applies on our behalf, which is typically a contractor. So in the past, the contractors who went after this, who was able to fill out the applications, were people who did lighting upgrades. I had a conversation with the Public Service Commission and said, hey, look, lighting is great, but it's low-hanging fruit. We would like equipment upgrades is what we really need. They said, that is exactly what we want to go after. We want you to apply for that to give you money for it. And so to your question, Coach, about women and minority-owned businesses, not every contractor, it's not like we just open up and re-procure a contractor for it. There are certain contractors who can apply with the Public Service Commission, and those people usually come to you and say, hey, I can apply on your behalf. What we do is we select the schools based on operational costs and square footage, and we say, hey, we think that these would probably be the ones that you can find a project to put automation in, which is what this is going to do. They're going to install building automation for monitoring and controls, and then some commissioning. So we didn't procure 5 or 6 contractors to seek this.
Okay, but does that waive the policy that was put in place in 2011?
So in this instance, we actually don't put up any money. We don't pay any money. We never receive any money. The Public Service Commission pays them directly.
I still have concerns about the DBE participation in those public service contractors. Maybe you can't answer that. Another question. Liberty, how old is Liberty High School?
Liberty High is a very new school. Liberty High is the only school in District 2 for the Public Service Commission District 2. The reason Liberty High was picked is because they were the only ones in that district that met the requirements for it. All other projects that were selected are in District 3 for the Public Service Commission.
I understand, but what would Liberty High, they're 7 years old, what do they need?
Commissioning. That building was not commissioned whenever it was open. So you have a lot of things that aren't running effectively.
Like the basketball floor warping up?
That's not commissioning.
I know, I'm just throwing that out there. Okay.
So commissioning as in the equipment running as it was designed, did somebody check it when it was built? They also had a wireless automation system for the mechanical system installed at Liberty, which is a little bit unique. It does not work and function correctly. So they're actually going to overhaul those controls to get them working correctly.
Okay. How did the building go online with none of that being checked?
I wasn't here, Coach. So
I know, me
can't-
neither. That's
yeah.
why I'm asking. Okay. You've got one school on here that, we're talking about school consolidation and different things like that. There's one school on here that may not even be open in 4.5 years. We talked the return on, and I'm talking about Melrose Elementary, return on investment, 4.5 years. You're going to spend $192,000 on a building that may not even be in operation in 4.5 years.
So remember, we're not spending money.
I understand. I'm just putting it out there.
And for me, we haven't made a decision to close any schools, so I'm
No, we
operating
haven't.
under
I'm
the-
not saying that Melrose will be closed. I'm just saying you got a building that was built in the 50s that chances are may not be online in 4.5 years, but if they want to spend $192,000 on it, that's them. But I'm just, to me, and they can do what they want to do with their money. But that building was built in the 50s. The lady who lives down the street from me is 67 years old. She went to elementary school there. What about Baton Rouge High? How old is Baton Rouge High? I'm just putting it out. I understand it's not our money. We didn't put this out there. But I just find it amazing that Baton Rouge High needs $500,000 worth of work done. And Liberty needs $328,000 worth of work done on 2 new buildings.
So look at your savings, that's annual savings projected. So, and that's where that comes in as to when they will or will not approve a project.
I'm looking at the savings. Savings look really good. I wish I had a savings account look like some of these. Okay. Duration of the contract, 6 months. So they can get all this done in 6 months.
You have to get it done within 6 months, correct?
Good luck. Okay. I'm done. I'm finished. Anybody else got any questions?
Thank you, Coach. Yeah, I entered the queue. I've dealt with this program myself in my day job. So just a couple of questions I want to make sure everybody understands. Mr. Morales, each member of the Public Service Commission has an allocation of funding for this grant program.
Correct.
And each, as it currently stands, it's going to be changed in a year, but as it stands, each member basically makes the decision which projects to fund within some broad criteria that the Public Service Commission adopted, correct?
Correct.
And so and they've got some kind of algorithm, some formula that they use to evaluate each project to see, basically which generates the best bang for the buck in terms of energy efficiency. Is that right?
Correct. They want to fall within a certain return on investment in a certain time period in order to award that contract. And then back, Coach, to the contractor too. The contractor who does this has a lot of legwork up front that they have to do load calculations. They have to prove these savings for this dollar amount to provide to the Public Service Commission in order to get it.
And so as we were looking through, because we have to submit the application saying, we think this is a good project, we think this is a good project, please fund it. As we were looking through and putting together, and I know your team did a lot of work on this, and I commend y'all for that. I've talked to folks from the PSC staff who are very impressed with the district's effort, so I appreciate that very much. But as we were putting together the list of potential projects within the district, how did the district approach it in terms of making sure we're considering equity issues, not leaving any school out that needed it most, and not spending a lot of money on schools that may be nearing the useful life? How did y'all kind of go through the universe of possible projects at the district and settle on these?
So what we had to do was District 3, Devontae Lewis is the one who approached me originally and said, hey, we want you to apply for this, please. And so I had a meeting with them. And so what we did is we went through and we said, okay, what schools are in District 3 to begin with? And then all we do is we looked at the operational costs a year for utilities and whatnot based on square footage to see, okay, which ones are higher than normal. And so we selected those and said, okay, let's start with these, because our plan is in the next coming years too, even though the program's going to change a little bit, we still plan to apply for about the next 5 years. They said it should last. And so every year, and so we said, look, we're going to apply for everything we can this year. Next year, we already have some in the queue and the trigger that we're going to roll back over as soon as it opens back up. Here's another set of schools. Let's go ahead and set up some projects for these for energy efficiency. And so if we keep doing that over the next 5 years, that's all free money that we get, and then we in return get to capitalize on those savings that we get.
Thank you. My last question, just to clarify, we're not getting cash and then awarding a contract to anybody. Mm-hmm. They say we're going to fund this project, and then the Public Service Commission decides who's doing that work.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Ms. Sule.
That was a similar question I had about how the schools were chosen, but you answered it. Thank you.
All right. Is that all, Ms. Sule? All right. Ms. Stewart.
Yeah, I think to my understanding, what Coach was trying to allude to is, I guess, the incorporation of the MB, like the small minority businesses. But I think that ties in conjunction with the connection with the Public Service Commission office and how they solicit and gain contractors and deal with that. But the question is, with the Public Service Commission, it deals with utilities. So does that mean, I guess, they're also going to be doing like HVAC work and things of that nature too as well?
So they can. This round of what we applied for this time is majority building automation was on a lot of our buildings, and then some commissioning work to recommission our buildings. And look, even though, Liberty High was open 7 years ago, some buildings you might recommission in 10 years because you might have changed some equipment or something might have changed with the usage of it, so on and so forth. So sometimes a newer building has to be recommissioned, sometimes much older, the 50s and 60s. You have much more reason to recommission them because people change things over the years. But right now, it's just automations and commissioning. We would like to, in the future, try to use this to tackle some equipment replacement because we know that's a challenge that we have. And so my goal is to hit general fund last. If I can use Public Service Commission or other funding sources before I tap our general fund, that's my intention. And so that was our purpose for this.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Are there any more comments from the board? All right, hearing none. Comments from the public on this item? All right, we'll return to comments from the board. I'm going to enter the queue. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the Public Service Commission, Commissioner Craig Green, and particularly Commissioner Devontae Lewis, who have been very far-minded in trying to get the maximum value out of this program for Baton Rouge and the Baton Rouge School District. I know a lot of agencies that participate in this program mind it for very simplistic stuff, lighting and things like that, which are not bad, and we should do our share of those. But I think that that Commissioner Lewis's staff in particular have been very proactive working with the district team to find some really innovative projects that will provide a lot of value and save us some cash in taking care of our building. So I appreciate Commissioner Lewis and Commissioner Green for that. Anybody else? All right, Madam Secretary, let's vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4, professional services contracts. Consideration of a request for the approval of professional services contracts between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. A, Studyville, in an amount of up to $1,700,000 to provide high-dosage tutoring services in reading and math, and authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute contracts with additional state-approved vendors. Strategic alignment, student achievement, funding source, high-dosage tutoring grant. Alphabet B, Be Able Life Ready Literacy in the amount of $344,712.50 to provide literacy and career and college readiness. Strategic alignment, student achievement, funding source, MSAP grant, fostering diverse schools grant, and magnet. Alphabet C, Lexia Learning Systems LLC in the amount of $525,979.50 to provide reading instruction to students. Funding source, Title I, Strategic Alignment, Student Achievement. Alphabet D, Lexia Learning Systems LLC in the amount of $93,005 to provide professional learning for teachers to improve literacy and language. Strategic Alignment, Student Achievement, and Employee Development. Funding source, CLSD. Alphabet E, Proximity Learning to provide virtual instruction for students in grades 6 through 12, Strategic Alignment, Student Achievement, funding source, General Fund. Alphabet F, Sedgwick Claims Management Services, Inc. as the third-party claims administrator for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System, and to authorize the General Counsel and the Superintendent to negotiate and execute a contract. Strategic Alignment, Operational Excellence, funding source, Workers' Compensation / Risk Management. All right. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Russ, second by Ms. Stewart. All right, Coach, this is item 4. You want to be in the queue?
Yes, I do.
All right, it's all yours.
Studyville. They've identified, no, first of all, let me say this. Somebody did an amazing job cutting and pasting from the LDOE. Wonderful job with the cut and paste. Because it came directly from LOD, what's on this thing for the most part. Am I right? Okay, I'm not finished yet. Studyville is asking for $1.7 million for high-dose tutoring. Now, in the contract, one thing it says these people will be employees of Studyville. You've identified 7,500 students. Studyville wants half the money when the contract is signed. in what world, when you deal with grants and stuff like that, that people get half the money before they provide it into services? Where are they going to get people to tutor 7,500 students? Is it face-to-face? Is it virtual? Where are they coming from with that?
Okay, so the payment process will be on a monthly basis. The vendor will have to provide us with an invoice and also the documentation that the students have to sign in, the attendance, and then they're paid on a monthly basis.
Okay, so the monthly is this going to be offered after school, during school? When is the tutoring going to be offered?
So the tutoring according to the law, it has to be during the day. It cannot be before school and it cannot be after school, extended day. It's during the regular school day.
Okay, so how long is it? What, 30 minutes? How long is the tutoring?
Okay, so the tutoring, let's see, I have a PowerPoint. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Ms. Edwards.
Hey, how y'all doing? So the legislation stipulates that the tutoring must be during the day. It's 20 to 30 minutes where age appropriate for 3 days a week is what the legislation outlines.
So are they going to be missing any other class time during this tutoring?
The goal is for them not to miss class time, but so we've worked with every one of our principals because the reality is the $2.8 million that was allocated is not enough to service all students who would qualify for high dosage tutoring. So what we've done is we work with each individual principal to create their plan because high dosage tutoring is just a type of intervention. All of our students were going to receive interventions regardless. What the legislation has done is prescribed the frequency of which it has to occur and the when of which it has to occur. So what we'll be able to do with Studyville or any other vendor that we work with, we're going to be able to add additional capacity on our campuses. So we sit down with the numbers, and this is the other caveat. The legislation says that if a child is in the classroom of a highly effective teacher, then the compliance check mark is marked, but we know that that teacher was going to provide intervention for them already. So we've looked at all the numbers. We work with our data team to pull the rosters from J Campus and overlay our data to see like where do our students who qualify for high dosage tutoring, where are they that they are not in the class of a highly effective teacher? We work with principals to see like what human capacity do you have on your campus to meet this, and what we want to do is bridge that barrier of where they're not able to provide the high dosage tutoring with the human capacity that's on the campus. So we sat down, Mr. Robichaud and I, and we really were intentional about looking at the numbers, and we looked at our high need schools first. All of our AUS schools, all of our C, D, and F schools that have numbers of students 50 or more that qualify for high dosage tutoring. They're not in the class of a highly effective teacher. We're going to push that capacity into the campus and work with the principal so that we have human capacity for 3 days a week on that campus to fit into their intervention schedule. So where they were already stretched, we're being able to provide what's legislatively mandated, we'll be able to offer it with high dosage tutoring. The other caveat is, even though we have this contract with Studyville, when we met with her even up until yesterday, the question you asked, like, where are the people going to come from? They're going to be Studyville employees, but they're going to be housed on our campuses for 7 days, 7 hours a day for 3 days a week. So we want to be able to evaluate, like, how is this working? So at some point, if it's not working, and we need to pivot if it's not working for all children. So that's where we are today. I don't know if I answered all your questions. I should have took bullets and notes.
So they have enough people to do all this based on everything you said with the overlay and the highly qualified teachers? I'm
She's
talking
here.
Ms. Edwards right now, though.
She's assured us that she has applicants in the pool. She can't tell them they have the position until we get the contract approved. So on a rolling basis, we're gonna push those tutors once they meet our clearance, because they'll have to have background clearance like any of our other people that come onto our campuses and work with our kids. But she's here. You want to talk with her too, or just me?
Yeah, come on. I'm fine. Yeah, come on up.
Okay.
Because we have teachers and paraprofessionals in our classrooms now that we're supporting. what's the guarantee that the people you bring in are going to be more qualified or as qualified as the people who are in the classrooms?
Before you go, I don't think we can guarantee that they're going to be more qualified, but what we're
Or
going to
as qualified.
What we're going to guarantee is that they're going to be trained on what they're doing. So that's the same thing we would do with any paraprofessional. Before we put them in an intervention, they have to be trained on what they're using with the students. So she's guaranteeing, and we're going off based on her being on that vendor list. This is the other thing that I didn't share. Like we have had an opportunity to converse with several vendors, and the price point that she was able to provide,
Which is?
about, I'll tell you, because I wanted to make sure I had that. We ran the numbers just from the providers that we spoke with. For a 10-week cycle per student, it's about $240. That's 3 days a week for their 30 minutes for a 10-week cycle. The next two vendors that we met with, that same price point was about $687 per student, and then the next one was $869. So and these other two vendors were virtual. So she's going to provide face-to-face opportunity to push into the schools, and at a price point where we're going to be able to service more kids.
Can you give me, what schools we decide needs this? I know you said all the ASUs, that's what, 15 ASU schools?
That's
37.
It's 37. Well,
I mean, I know we
talked
talk about what's critical need, urgent need.
our CIR, URRA schools. This is the other thing. You put me on blast because we haven't really told the schools yet, because we wanted to make sure that they were going to actually be able to get the additional human capacity.
But they need to know too.
Oh no, they know that we are working on getting them some additional work. That's, I think, the pre-work that we've had them do, because if we were just to say who needs help, everybody would say we need help. So we want to look at the plans that they have in place, but we prioritize. So just say our AUS schools may be able to get 3 additional persons to work on their campuses, where some of our other schools may only be able to get 1. But all of our schools with the label CIR, URRA, that's all of our comprehensive intervention, urgent intervention required, all of our AUS, and then even some of our non-label schools that have high populations of students that qualify for this, but they don't have the number of highly affected. So even some of our non-label schools are on that list.
Thank you for having me. Those are great questions. So Act 771 was passed by the Louisiana legislature and funded for $30 million to be used for high dosage tutoring for students who are performing at benchmark and below K through 5 in literacy and math, for 10 weeks for literacy and 10 weeks for math. High dosage tutoring is defined as 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week for 10-week periods in groups of no more than 4 to 1. And it was funded before we had our LEAP scores and knew exactly how many students would qualify, how many highly effective teachers we had. So it is, while it seems like a lot of money, it is very much underfunded. And it came about from COVID and learning loss and the Annenberg Institute at Brown University, where they put a lot of money into discovering what would help students catch back up after COVID learning losses, and high dosage tutoring has amazing results. So for EBR, Studyville, we're one of, it was 10, there might be a few more providers now. We're the only tutoring provider that is able to serve 10,000 or more students in person. We have a pool of about 189 tutors. We train in the science of reading for literacy. They go through all of our vetting process. We also do the background checks and everything that is required for EBR in the state. We are in several districts statewide. We gauge effectiveness by our data points. I am militant about collecting data, so all of our tutors will be on our new database platform where they're collecting which tutors are working which students, their grouping, student response rate, the skill set they're working on with literacy, if it's phonological awareness, phonics comprehension, or math, numeracy, addition, subtraction, et cetera, and just very short data points. This is, the Department of Education is really excited about this program because of the success it's seen nationwide. And the unfortunate part is that we are not going to have our LEAP scores when the 2025 legislative session reconvenes and they're voting on this again. And so my job is to get in front of the legislature and show my data, which I do not want to be in front of that legislative session and say, you just wasted $30 million. So I'm personally invested in this program and seeing that we help our students succeed. We are local, we're female owned. 4 of the 5 executive team members are females. And because we hire in person, we're not virtual, we think that virtual high dosage tutoring could be very problematic for the in-classroom teacher because they're going to have to do 4-to-1. And for a teacher to try to get 4 students with 1 tutor and the headphones, we just think that that could be ripe for some confusion in the classroom. And we want to be a quality of life benefit for the teacher, not a distraction. So, so our tax dollars will stay here in EBR since we are hiring in-person tutors here in Baton Rouge.
In your militancy and going at the data, have you taken a look at the 24 subgroup data for EBR?
I'm not sure that.
It's Louisiana Believes.
Yes.
You go look up and it's subgroup data for every subgroup that's in our schools. Economically disadvantaged, African American, white, Asian.
Yes, sir. So we have to report to LDOE the demographics. So each child will have their student ID number attached to the data points, and all of those demographics will also be reported.
So in doing that, have you identified those subgroups?
Not yet. So that is that we're working with.
So do you agree that in order to move a district or a school, you have to address the subgroups in the school that are performing extremely low?
Yes, and that is the law.
That's the law.
Yes. So
I would think that you would have taken a look at the 24 data for our subgroups if you're going to get $30 million. If you're asking for half of $1.777 million, I would have taken a look at that subgroup data before I came in here.
Yes, sir. So there are 18,000 students that qualify as a whole. When you remove the highly effective teacher, that's about 8,000 students. We're going to start with 4,514 students in ELA, potentially over 37 different schools.
All total it's about 7,000 students, correct? ELA, math, science, about
closer
7,000?
to 8,000.
Closer to 8,000?
Yes, sir.
It's even better, huh? I'm just kidding.
I hope next year that it's way lower.
I hope next year we have some results, because if we don't move the kids in the subgroups that are struggling, then, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Mr. Lewis, you and I are 100% aligned on that, and that is what wakes me up every morning.
It keeps me awake at night, because when I go to my schools and I see kids that are struggling, when I see teachers in front of those kids who need just as much support as the students to get through the day, it keeps me awake at night.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And that, I hope that we will all see that this program is meant to be a quality of life benefit for teachers by serving the students who are so far behind that they need small group or one-on-one intervention.
Okay. So have you taken a look at Dibble's data?
Yes, sir. We have a data share agreement with EBR, and we will pull through that as soon as all the students are identified.
So just for fun, if you got a kid that's a 5th grader that's reading on a 2nd grade level, what's your plan to move that kid? It seems like to me they need high dosage.
Yes. So students will be grouped according to their skill set. So if there is a fifth grader who's reading at a second grade level, then we're going to have to identify other fifth graders who are, or some students who are also in that grade level. We'll start with our science of reading assessments. We'll share our DIBEL scores with the tutors. The tutors will have access to that. And we will start with our phonological awareness exercises, phonics, move to fluency, word count per minute. We're going to work with word count per minute for each of those students. And so we'll see that number tick up. If by session 3, I don't see that number ticking up, we're going to address it. Is it the tutor? Is something else going on? So we do have a plan for data and how we address a student who is not improving before the 10 weeks are up.
We're going to do all this in 10 weeks,
Yes, sir. 10 weeks for literacy, 10 weeks for math.
20 weeks, okay. All right.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Ms. Sule.
I just wanted to say thank you all for coming with the data, and it's really nice to have this conversation about kids, and I'm so grateful to you, Mr. Lewis, for asking the tough questions, and to you guys coming prepared with the answers for that. And I'm so excited to be ready for us to help kids. And I love hearing that the science of reading is part of that. But thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sule. President Powell Lewis.
Thank you. First of all, good evening, everyone. I do apologize for my tardiness. I was traveling from Covington, Louisiana for the LSB Trailblazer training today. But I just wanted to say thank you as well to all who are participating in assisting us with high-dose tutoring. I've recently had the opportunity to attend a convening that's referred to as outcomes-based contracting. And the main topic was the importance of including high-dose tutoring and including the different vendors that are within our areas to be able to support that, and how that is a national initiative. And so the fact that we're having this conversation, I can't think of a better way, if we're going to make an investment, is to consider these processes and making sure, as you all have heard me say on many occasions, that we need to be working as close as we can to move the needle to getting high-dose tutoring at every single school site within our district by any means necessary. So I'm thankful for your service. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, President Powell Lewis. I want to second what my colleagues have said. I appreciate the quality of this discussion. I let it go well over time because it was such an important discussion on a very important topic. And Coach, I appreciate you, you're guiding us through that. Superintendent, I do want to make one ask, which is, and we've had this conversation before your tenure here. Whenever we have an item that involves a contract with a company that we've already contracted with for similar services in the past, I'd like to have something particularly with a firm that provides as much data as I know Studyville does. I'd like to have kind of a report on the data showing the metrics of success with subgroup data when we can to, as part of the packet going forward.
10-4.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Rust.
Thank you. I am so excited that the state of Louisiana is investing in this program. Since I joined this board, my number one wish was that we would somehow find a way to conduct a big lift towards literacy. And I think this is a great place to start, because we know that kids that need intervention, the smaller the group that they can receive that, the more effective it's going to be. I've seen that in my own kids, and I will attest that I have a child that has been tutored at Studyville, and they are very effective in the science of reading. I also want to point out that this is not the only investment that the state is making in literacy and also numeracy, but there's also the Steve Carter Literacy Program that they've doubled down on this year. And I know that in some ways the district is taking some steps to help facilitate that. I'm really excited to hear that we're being very intentional about what students are going to receive these interventions, because If we can show that this type of intervention can really turn education around for kids, because I believe very deeply that every child can learn regardless of where they come from. This could be a great step in the right direction. So I'm thankful that we have a good partner to do this. My ask to the superintendent, to Studyville, to the whole team is to keep the board apprised with, assuming that this does pass, with the progress as we start to get into the schools and as we get to the benchmark of each of those 10-week periods. We would ask that you come and tell us, what your observations were, what the opportunities are going to be, so that we can encourage the state to give us more money for this. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rust. All right, seeing nobody else in the queue from the board, we'll turn to public comments. Have a card here from Storm Matthews. Ms. Matthews?
Good evening. This is a comment that would not be shared if y'all's new policy passes. Coach, you asked about missing class time. Now, this is to absolutely no fault of Studyville whatsoever. This is because of the actual state legislature that passed. If a student gets pulled out of my class for their high dosage tutoring, they are absolutely missing what's happening in my class. And that's going to put them behind in what we are currently doing. But that is absolutely no fault to Studyville whatsoever, or the important work that they are doing. However, one point that I would also like to make is that if we are looking to fill, as Dr. Edwards said, is if you're looking for the highly effective teachers to fill those spots in the first place, is we need to focus on paying the principals what they should be paid, and for those principals to follow policies and treat the teachers well and not illegally dock teachers, causing great teachers to leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matthews. Are there any other public comments on this item? All right. Seeing no cards and nobody walking in, we will return to comments from the board. Any further board comments on this item? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, let's vote on item 4.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, Resolution Special Counsel. Consideration of a request for the approval of a resolution regarding the retention of Phelps Dunbar LLP as special counsel for the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and related matters. Is there a motion? Moved by Ms. Stewart, second by Mr. Ballou. All right. Is there any comment from any members of the board? All right, seeing none, comments from members of the public on item 5. All right, seeing none, returning to the board. Any comments from members of the board on our longtime special counsel, Phelps Dunbar? All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Let's vote.
Please vote. The motion carries.
Thank you very much to my friend, Mr. Blunt, out there. You can go home now, or you can stick around and watch us, as long as you're not billing us right now. All right, moving on to item 6, amended policy BCB, consideration of a request to adopt amended policy BCB, board meeting rules of procedure. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Rust. Is there a second? Ms. Powell-Lewis. All right. Comments from members of the board on this item number 6? All right, any comments from members of the board? All right, we will turn then to public comments. We have a couple in person and a couple of online comments. First up is Ursula Parkerson, if I'm reading that name correctly.
Hi, so I'm Ursula Parkerson. I teach in this district. And I guess I feel a little bit concerned about this amendment because my perception is, and I hope I'm wrong, that the changes to this comment or the comment section is kind of meant to make us feel like we shouldn't be commenting or feel like we can't comment. Because if we have to comment before a motion is made, before we hear the opinions of the board, before the board brings up their objections or feelings, what are we commenting? I mean, it doesn't feel like we are going to be able to effectively comment or give our opinions to you if that's the case. And like I'm saying, I hope my perception is wrong here, but it just almost feels like an effort to make us be quiet. I don't want that to be true, though. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ms. Matthews.
This is the item I made sure I was here for tonight. It is 5:50, and you're on one of the last items of the meeting. You're doing just fine pushing through a meeting, unless we're in a superintendent fiasco, which I don't think we're going to be doing anytime soon. Right, Superintendent Cole? You're staying here for quite a while. So.
Creek don't rise, Lord say the same.
Amen. So, we're not going to have another issue like we did this summer where we're riding into the midnight hours. So I do not foresee the need to have to shorten things in a way if our board leadership makes sure that we have a concise agenda. Tonight's agenda is good. We're almost done in almost an hour. Now, I 100% from the conversations that I had today with many of you, I 100% agree with certain individuals needing to be told, you must be germane to the topic, and if they are not germane to the topic, shut the mic off. However, those individuals who do bring a lot to the board meeting should not be punished and silenced, because I can guarantee you one of them will not be silenced by stopping their comments or by pushing them to the very front before the board speaks, before they have the opportunity to hear your opinions, your viewpoints on the item. And then when we have changes in the motion, that can absolutely 100% change what we are talking about. And when it does change, now I agree, and I don't get up just because I can get up. And I agree that can be annoying. And I have told some of my friends, you don't have to get up just because you can. So I understand it. I get it. However, we cannot punish those individuals who get up responsibly just because some people irritate us. This is a democratic republic, and we should treat it responsibly. Board leadership should take complete control over those who do not treat it responsibly. And there are many people that are in certain positions that have greatly benefited from the way I comment by hearing board position and then comment. Just reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 2 online comments on this item. Colleen Kissel writes, "The public should continue to be allowed to make public comments after motions have been made, not just after the initial item. This board has a large history of drastically changing items during meetings to mean very different things than the initial item. For example, the process for selecting the superintendent. As a substitution, we could allow a new session of public comment if an item's language is changed by a certain percent." And Dr. James Finney had trouble with the online system and emailed me this comment he asked me to provide. "I support the proposed changes to sections 1, 4, and 5 of policy BCB. I am alarmed by the proposed changes to section 6, particularly the chilling effect those changes would have on the public's opportunity to participate in their government's deliberations." Are there any further public comments on this item? All right, seeing none, we will return to comments from the board. President Powell Lewis.
Mr. Shamlin, just for the sake of the public that's listening that may not have had the chance to review everything in board docs, could you give us a quick synopsis of what this change would look like in regards to public comment?
Yes, just in brief summary, all of the changes, all but one of the changes to the policy are statutory in nature, so legislative changes require some of these changes. The most significant, and the one I believe most speakers are referring to, is a public comment option. The state law requires that public school boards allow a period of public comment prior to the vote on any particular item before the vote's taken. Historically, and per our policy, we've been allowing comment on every motion or substitute motion, amended motion, et cetera, made. What this does is it now says that the period of public comment will happen after the item is read into the record. And so persons from the public will be able to comment fully, and those comments can then impact the board's decision on how they make a motion. Following that motion, the board would then make its comments, and then the vote will be taken. So essentially, the public comment is moved up to the front of the process ahead of the board's motion.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. My follow-up question to that is, will this take place during the committee of the whole and the full board meeting?
Yes, this is a change in our policy on board meeting procedures, so it would apply to any meeting of the board where votes are taken.
Okay, so thank you. So just to clarify, what that means is that you will still have the opportunity to comment at the committee of the whole, and then in 2 weeks later, you can come back and comment as well.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Powell Lewis. I want to express my appreciation for Ms. Matthews and the social studies teacher in this properly characterizing our society as a democratic republic. We often get inexact terms thrown around, and I appreciate her use of the precise term. This policy change, from my perspective, is not about punishing anybody. It's not about a comment on the quality of the public comments we receive. We receive some tremendously valuable public comments, and certainly I have found myself very educated by the comments that have been made throughout my tenure on this board by the public, and I absolutely want to encourage continued strong public participation in this. What this is really about is kind of what we touched on 2 weeks ago at the full board meeting, talking about the need to have the board spending its time focused on outcomes, the outcomes of our students. And when we get lost and spend, a long time, hours sometimes, debating the merits of specific contracts as opposed to broader budget policies, broader academic policies, focus on holding our staff accountable for achieving the student outcomes that are desperately needed so that our children will learn to read and write and do basic arithmetic and advanced arithmetic, then we're not doing what we were elected to do. So this is not about trying to silence some voices or not hear from the public. It's about providing, frankly, it's about allowing the board to really get focused on what we're really here to do, which is improving the education of our students. As we move forward, and this is just but one change in a slew of change, not a slew, but a number of changes I hope to see over the coming months to allow us to have more high-quality discussion to debate, much like we had earlier on the high-dosage tutoring contract, not in the context of votes on specific contracts, but in votes on policy and votes on budget priorities, and in forums in which we will be able to allow both the board and members of the public to have greater participation in making the decisions that are made, not in the context of isolated contracts, but in the context of the broader scope of what we're trying to accomplish. And so that's why I'm supporting this policy. And with that, are there any further comments on item 6, amended policy BCB? I do want to apologize to Mr. Lannis. I didn't see your text earlier. He did text me well before the meeting and asked me to inform everybody that he was the keynote speaker for the graduation program for the Youth Divergent program for EBR schools, and that's why he was late this evening. So we appreciate you doing that for us. All right. So we're on item 6, which is the change in policy on the order in which we take public comments. All right. So did you need to have any comment on that? All right. Seeing no further public comments, Madam Secretary, let's vote.
Please vote.
Yeah, let's just do a roll call.
District 1, Mr. Blue?
Yes.
District 2, Mr. Lannis?
Yay.
District 3, President Powell Lewis?
Yes.
District 4, Ms. Stewart?
Yes.
District 5, Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
District 6, Mr. Russ?
Yay.
District 8, Ms. Sule?
Yes.
District 9, Vice President Martin?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the last voting item on the agenda, item 7, litigation. Consideration of a request for the approval of the recommendation from Gwen Shamlin, General Counsel, EBR, PESB, in the matter of N2 versus East Baton Rouge Parish School Board et al., docket number 731854, section 23, Parish of East Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, and to provide for related matters, and I apologize for mispronouncing that name. Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Stewart. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Rust. All right. Any comment from members of the board on this item? All right. Seeing none, any comments from members of the public on item 7? All right. Seeing none, back to members of the board. Any comments? All right. Madam Secretary, let's vote. You're logged in now?
I'm good.
All right. Let's vote.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right, before we announce the meeting dates, Coach Lewis, did you want a moment of personal privilege?
Just a moment of personal privilege.
All right.
And I hope what I say will manifest itself in the coming years. On last week, I visited Ostruma High School. Now, most of the times when people talk about Ostruma High School, the first thing they want to talk about is everything that's negative, everything that's going on bad at Ostruma High School. Mostly because we don't know. And I'm guilty of that. I visited Ostruma High School last Friday, and I was floored by all of the good things going on at Ostruma High School. Visited an intervention class, a math class, Ms. Edwards, where the teacher was engaged, she was teaching, the kids were involved. It was great. Went to a geometry class, same thing going on. Teachers on whiteboards, they're teaching, the kids are involved, they're raising their hands, they're asking questions. From there, we went over to the middle school. I didn't realize that the middle school and the high school had 2 separate school codes. I'm thinking it's just 6 through 12. I mentioned to someone that I had been to Estruma, and the first thing they said is, man, we got some problems over at Estruma. Just somebody out in the street. Well, they didn't know. Because all we hear about is the negative. And I'll pivot back to something I've said on this since I've been sitting up here. We need to start telling our own story and stop letting other people tell us what we're doing. On this particular Friday, the catering school over there, they were preparing lunch for the Jump Start program. I wish I could have hung around and eaten because they were doing like steak and corn and all that stuff. Great. They had a kid got a culinary scholarship from Estruma last year to go to New York City for culinary. The middle school, mass media, multimedia, green screen, podcasting, doing all these great things at Estruma High School. And the icing on the cake, to me, went in the back, saw one of my former players. I run into him everywhere I go. Vernon is back there in the shop class. He's teaching construction math. He taken the little stools and put backs on them so his kids couldn't lean, couldn't put their heads down on their desk. Teaching these kids trades, things that they can do to earn a living. Their aquaponics program blew me away. They're growing fruit, they're growing vegetables, they're raising catfish. They have contracts with vendors to sell the products. So let's stop talking about all the negative stuff that we let the press and other people who don't know talk to us about. So I'm just letting you know, don't say anything else to me negative about Estruma High School. If you're in this building, if you're out in the streets, don't say anything to me any more ever again about what's negative at Estruma High School. I'm tired of hearing it. The teachers are doing the best they can. And some of those teachers need some of that same support, Ms. Edwards, that we talked about earlier, because they're trying. They're hustling. They're doing everything they can do. They got a greenhouse. They're building a barn for Northeast. We're doing great things in EBR schools, and it's time we start telling our own story, because I've been a victim myself of not realizing the good things that are going on in this district. And I told the principal, I'm going to put you on blast, because she deserves to be put on blast. Now, is everything great and sunshine? No. We've got a lot of work to do in that school and all our other schools. But the things that we are doing good that are helping kids move and find a pathway beyond the 10-12 split is happening at Estruma High School. And other schools around this district, I'm sure that we are totally unaware of. So let's stop focusing on the black dot and start focusing on the white sheet of paper, the whole sheet of paper instead of the little black dot. Or the black sheet of paper and a white dot, whatever you want to look at it. The glass ain't half empty, it's half full. Our teachers are doing a fantastic job against all odds sometimes. Let's support them and do what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. I was with Coach at Estruma, and I share his sentiments 100%. I was particularly impressed with their aquaponics program. I'm very familiar with the aquaponics program that we have at Westdale Middle Magnet, and it's a great program, and very grateful for Bessie Board member Ronnie Morris, who helped get that program started before he was ever even on Bessie Board. I had no idea that we had an aquaponics program at Estruma, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic, and so I would encourage the district staff superintendent that you know, when we go out of our way to look for the excellence, not just in our magnet programs, which everybody knows are excellent, but in our more traditional schools as well, so that we can, and that people maybe don't have as high opinion of, so we can get that word out there. All right.
Just want to say, I want to celebrate Dr. Langford and her team at Estroma, and I would encourage, as I have encouraged our leadership at central office, as well as members of the community, go visit our schools. Not the ones you represent, just go visit all of our schools. We have fantastic things happening in all of our schools. And I don't care what school it is in the city, public, Catholic, parochial, private, all schools have challenges. It's about what we choose to talk about, what we choose to spotlight. And so, again, celebrate the team at Estroma and all of our schools. And I would ask that folks continue to visit and see the good things that are happening with our students.
Thank you very much. All right, now we've just opened the door to all sorts of public comments. Not public comments, personal privilege, personal information. What you got, Mr. Landis?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you all what really grinds my gears about Estroma. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to mess with Coach. So I feel your sentiments about the programming that's happening in Estroma, Coach, and oftentimes people say a lot of crazy things about the schools that they deem to be the most academically unperforming. But what you will find is that when you survey parents, when you survey the students, what you see is there's going to be a common thread that's going to say they need better programming. When you talk about aquaponics program, that's an amazing program. We talk about the food service program they have there, and I was actually able to try the food last year, and it was fantastic. Let me just say that. But another program that we're doing right now at Estroma High School, it is in unison with ExxonMobil. It is called the LIFT Grant, or the LIFT program, which stands for Leaders Inspiring Faces for Tomorrow, where they take college students and they teach every single week about STEM-related education. This is something that you will not hear about on the news. This is something you may not hear about that's taking place across our community, but these are the types of programs that those types of schools need, and they have expanded this program. It started last year, they expanded it this year, and Estroma is the #1 school on the list right now to serve again.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Ms. Stewart.
I just wanted to make an announcement to let the public know about the upcoming engagement event, which is Tuesday, October 15th, with the minority and women-owned businesses, a collaboration with the Fair Share program. And basically, it's an engagement, informative session that will guide and let small businesses know about the process of accessing opportunities with EBR School District. It will give you an overview of the different types of opportunities that have been historically offered, some of the requirements for the participation in these opportunities, and the other strategies and tips for those persons that may be interested in looking into those opportunities. So please, get the message out to those persons who have businesses. Tuesday, October 15th at 9 a.m. at the PDC building, which is located at 300 North Sherwood Forest, Building C, Room 304. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. I really appreciate your leadership in that area. I know it's an important area to all of us, and appreciate you helping organize these community meetings. President Powell Lewis.
Thank you. Since we are all doing points of personal privilege, I just wanted to share as well, Mr. Cole, before you started here and all last year, I constantly, and I know my colleagues can attest to this, asked for there to be some form of a bus on Fridays or what have you, whatever day of the week, where board members, district leadership, even some of our constituents can jump on that bus and get a chance to go and tour some schools. And I sure hope that there is some way that we can work that out in the very near future. I think that it would be quite encouraging and motivating for our community as a whole. And so I hope that that is something that is, number one, Mr. Shamlin, legal that we can do, and Mr. Cole, that it is something that you have the power to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to make sure next time we do this, we don't just open the floor for everybody. But all very important announcements. All right. Moving on to the last item, item E, next meeting dates, announcements. We have a board retreat to be held on Saturday, October 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. in the Instructional Resource Center. That's right next door. Oversight Committee meeting to be held on October 7th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the central office. That's Conference Room A here in this building. Some or all board members may attend that oversight meeting. And the regular meeting to be held on October 17th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the central office boardroom. On my own personal privilege, I may be absent that meeting, needing to travel to the National Conference on School Start Times. I'm still making those arrangements to see if I can get up there in time, but I don't think I can get up there in time and attend the board meeting on Thursday. But I will give everybody a report at the next meeting after that, since the taxpayers are paying for that travel. And with that, that's all we have. Mr. Lewis?
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.